Hi, welcome to Tuesday Talks Outside the Box with me, Lori Ramos Lemasters of Care Partners Resource and Consulting. And I'm coming to you today with my friend, Kathy Gunter. And Kathy and I have been best friends from the 7th grade, and we are a little older than that now. But Kathy and I share a little bit of experience with regards to caring for a loved one. Kathy's mom was she officially ever diagnosed with Alzheimer's?
Yes.
Yes. So Kathy's mom had Alzheimer's, and she lost her about
2 years ago.
Oh my gosh, she lost her mom 2 years ago to the disease, but helped in sort of long distance caregiving with her dad, who was actively her primary caregiver. And then most recently, her mother-in-law, who she helped with day-to-day care and overseeing management of the care team. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about what some of the struggles were when caring for both her moms. So I had some other ideas that I wanted to talk about, and Kathy came up with something really, really valuable. So that's where we're going today. So what did you want to talk about today?
I thought that the most difficult part for me, Lori, was the fact that the patient, being my mom's, would change daily on what they liked in terms of eating or even preferences. Like I really enjoyed giving my mom a pedicure, and then it started to hurt her all of a sudden, so I couldn't do that anymore, and it made me feel kind of helpless in the fact that I wasn't being able to comfort them then with the things that I knew that comforted them before.
Right. Yeah.
And so that was a challenge, to try and find new things and to keep them kind of satisfied and happy.
Right. So not only was that hard, but in some ways did it make you feel like you were failing?
Yes. Like
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do some days. Some days everything you tried didn't work.
Right. Right.
And even down to the menu you would prepare them. They didn't like one day when they loved it another day. Just things like that.
Yeah. Really, that's such an important topic, because I think caregivers deal with that a lot, because you're kind of at a loss then. What am I supposed to do? And some days you feel like you're not doing anything right. And then other days...
The importance to not take it personally.
Exactly. Right? Mm-hmm. That you can't own that as a personal failure, because you're doing the best you can. And you have to remember that, that some days it just... especially if you're dealing with something like a dementia, or like your mother-in-law who had a stroke, and my mom who had a stroke. I mean, some days they just don't feel well. And that's nothing you're doing. It's right. Just, yes, they don't feel great. So you have to it's hard to always stay positive and come up with new ideas. And mom had a stroke, and then she survived for how many years after that?
About 6.
Yeah. 6 years. And my mom had a stroke, and she survived for 8 years afterwards. And so it was a constant worry and journey of trying to, like in the beginning, for me, it was so hard because I was on a mission to make her better, right? Mm-hmm. They can get better, and gosh, your mother-in-law came from such strong stock, as did mine mom. I mean, they were the strongest women we knew.
Right.
And so there was no doubt in our mind they were going to get better. And then after a couple of years, and then 3 years, and then 4 years, you kind of start shifting your thought process a little bit.
You actually start to see the decline instead of the improvement.
Right. And that's a very helpless feeling.
And a lot was age-related, too.
Sure. And so I think for you caregivers out there, you have to recognize that it isn't about you and as your determination and how hard you're working at getting them better and trying to make them better. Sometimes there's a different plan, whether you believe in God or the universe or inevitability, whatever it may be that drives you. You have to recognize that you're not the sole person who makes these choices and decisions as to their path and how that's going to go. So accept the challenges and their journey and don't take it personally as though you're failing, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to stay positive. And, both Kathy and I were able to hire help part-time to come in and do things and help us. And sometimes people make the assumption that when you are hiring people in and you do have help, that it's not as hard on you.
Sometimes it adds a whole nother dilemma if you don't have that right person. Sometimes it can actually be harder on you to try and manage all that.
Sure. And sometimes you think you have the right person. I had a caregiver at one point that had worked for us for a good long time, over a year. And we thought she was perfect. And we actually adapted our home so that she could move in and be a full-time caregiver with her son living with us as well. And after a short amount of time, it became very apparent that she was going down a really scary rabbit hole. And she started helping herself to some of my mom's medications, and things didn't go well. So there is all of that management as though you are a business, right? Mm-hmm. It's so important to remember, and it's really hard when someone is coming into your home, and especially after they've been caring for your loved one for a while, they become like part of the family. But it's really important to remember they're an employee.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, I really try to encourage caregivers to have family meetings often, like staying on target. How are things going? You stopped doing this, but that was part of the plan. You need to be vigilant about that they are staying on task. You had one caregiver, wasn't it, that started that book?
Mm-hmm.
And she had the other caregivers log what went on that day and how
yes.
things were going.
And that was nice.
Really helpful for you guys.
Yes. And the introduction to it was truly a labor of love on her part. She would write down, do this with Miss Betty, and Miss Betty likes this, and, everything that everybody would follow suit.
Right, exactly.
It was very nice.
And that's somewhat like I talk about having a care plan. It's so important to have these things written out so that when you do leave, or even if it's only for an hour, that you have a little bit of time to go get a little self-care or run an errand even that's not self-care, but on your own without your loved one. You don't have to spend half of that hour explaining what to do, right? You can have it all written out.
It's in the journal.
Yep, it's in the journal or a care plan, and you can just kind of quickly go over it with them so they know.
And it's nice for the family, too, to read that and to see what's going on during the day and for their loved one when they're not able to be there.
Yeah. Yep.
Who came over, because a lot of times that isn't remembered.
Right.
If it's not written down, it's just kind of passed by, and that's important. And later for comfort, when the loved one is gone, to read that is comfort also.
Very comforting. And for me, my mom couldn't speak and couldn't identify her likes and dislikes. So I wrote in there what TV shows she liked. And at about 4:00, she loved to have a snack and a cup of coffee, and about, things like that she couldn't tell a caregiver when they were over. So it's very helpful to have those things written down. And that's a really good point, because in her journal, the caregivers would write every day, like, this is what we did, and this is who came by and visited, or this is what she ate. And like you said, it's a comfort now that she's gone to kind of go back and read those things, and they may seem simple.
Mm-hmm. And even remember what you did, what part you had in it. Because sometimes for so many things, we're busy, and you forget about some of those moments too, and it's a good refreshment.
Yeah. So that's our message for you today. Remember that you're only human, and as being only human, I am getting a FaceTime call currently from my granddaughter, so I'm going to shut her off at the moment. But you're only human. You have to do what you can do, and be there as your loved ones change and be adaptable to those changes. Don't be so rigid that you have to stick to your plan or, those kind of things. And try writing all that stuff down, because that's a journal access of the information that's going to be so comforting to you when your loved one is gone.
Yes. And when you come up with the great plan, embrace it.
Yeah, for sure. So anyway, I want to thank my dear friend Kathy for being with me today, and thank all of you. Great. And thank all of you for joining us. And as always, take good care. And come back next Tuesday to see our next Tuesday talk, which will probably only be about 5 minutes again. And then check out tomorrow for my Wednesday Writes on my Facebook page, Care Partners Resource and Consulting, and I'll have some journal tips for you. Have a great day.